Idaho Backroads, brought to you by Hammer Down River Excursions.
Every year during the spring, an amazing journey begins for Idaho's endangered and threatened salmon. Young salmon leave Idaho to live in the ocean, while adult salmon return to spawn. Our Steve Liebenthal continues his award-winning coverage of Idaho's salmon crisis with a look at efforts to save Idaho salmon species from extinction. It's tonight's Idaho Backroads.
Idaho salmon, including the critically endangered sockeye, are on their way downstream. It's a 900-mile journey for some, during which they undergo an amazing transformation.
Their kidneys are reversing function, their gills are changing, so that by the time they reach the estuary, 800 miles, 850 miles from where we stand today, they are pretty close to the total transformation that they need to have when they hit the salt water in the ocean.
That amazing transformation once took less than 2 weeks as raging spring runoff pushed the salmon and steelhead smolts to the Pacific Ocean. But from Lewiston downstream, the water no longer rages. It is a series of 8 reservoirs created by 8 dams on the Lower Snake and Columbia rivers. Since construction of the last dam in the early 70s, sockeye numbers have plummeted.
In the last 5 years, the returns to this lake have been 11, 33, 13, 14, and 11.
But sockeye aren't the only species in decline.
If you zoom out, you can tell that they're really the canary in the coal mine for Idaho's other anadromous fish species. As the sockeye are going, soon our Chinook and our steelhead will go, and Chinook and steelhead provide a far more significant economic resource to the state of Idaho.
This graph shows how dire the situation is for Chinook. The black line represents the 10-year average return, the blue line last year's sparse return, and the red line this year's numbers even lower.
They've canceled most of the fishing seasons, and hatchery managers are concerned that we won't be getting enough salmon and steelhead back to even fulfill the hatchery needs, let alone fishing and harvest needs.
So what is being done? Here in Idaho, the governor's Salmon Working Group, comprised of dozens of environmental groups and river users, has been meeting for a year. Environmentalists are in solid agreement that the solution is to breach the 4 dams on the Lower Snake. But river users, especially farmers who use a barge system to get their grain to market, worry that would decimate their livelihoods. And while there will be many who will resist dam removal no matter what, salmon advocates are hoping the working group will come up with a solution that saves Idaho's endangered and threatened fish while preserving a way of life that would benefit fish and people in the Columbia Basin.
My organization is very committed to saving salmon. We believe that that means you're going to have to remove some dams, but we are equally committed to ensuring that as salmon recovery goes forward, communities in Idaho and Washington and Oregon are kept whole and made better.
Steve Liebenthal, Idaho 6 News.
The governor's